We're here. We are here. And of course, the vehicle does recognize and will continue to recognize throughout this conversation how fitting it is that this is the conversation we are having with you all today. As essentially, he was curious as to which figure in your history we would be connecting him with next, and yet we're wanting to give another expression conversation directly from us, who you may label as the Arcturians from your reference point, for a label and definer of who we are. We are a collective conscious awareness in the ninth dimension. Again, these are labels for your reference point. And we do work with what you consider your concept of time, timelines, the unfolding of experiences in order to stay true to the overall goals and objectives of the design, the individual life designs, the collective life designs, the planetary life designs, and the overall design of the third dimensional experience. And so it is a vast project we do find ourselves in the middle of undertaking. And so it is significant and it is important for us to express from our perspective various periods in your experience that have unfolded in this push and pull, we will say for dramatic effect, conflict of what can very loosely and simply be defined as mindlessness versus mindfulness, suppression versus enlightenment, the giving in and giving over to the human urges and desires of the biological body system, wanting to seek comfort and pleasure and satisfaction in material and physical pleasures, and the concept of recognition of the higher mind, the divine, the expansive multidimensional conscious awareness. And so we are speaking upon many different points and periods in the unfolding of humanity's experiences here on Earth, as there have been other experiences elsewhere where essentially the beings of whole planets have been constricted and suppressed into fanatical religious belief systems, suppressive controlling deity worship, suppression and control and manipulation of leadership, whole planets at war and conflict with each other, death and destruction, and no relief or respite. Many, many, many experiences have unfolded here in the third dimension, and not just on your planet, but elsewhere, beyond, beyond, beyond just Earth. And so when we say that Earth is the culmination of this, the completion of this, we are speaking to the amalgamation of many different unresolved experiences in order for the collectives that are taking part in their human expressions to find resolution and completion from these experiences, to find the release of the density of having participated in these experiences, and not just the density that has, for again, dramatic effect, clung to the human, clung to the conscious awareness, clung to the third dimension, but for all. These hangovers of density from experiences must be resolved for transmutation and transcension to occur. And so this has been the quote unquote conflict that you have found yourselves here in on Earth, and yet recognize the amalgamation of many, many different belief systems, religious, political, cultural. This is the amalgamation of all of these vast ranges of experiences. And so, the importance of us bringing forward this mixing pot of vast experiences that is unfolding for you here, now, currently, on Earth, is very significant as you are recognizing the deeper complexities that have been added to each one of these Earth experiences and also these 3D experiences that have been unfolding for all of you souls who are participating here in the third dimension. As all of you have aspects and parts that are participating in many other experiences. And so the resolution of the perspectives of these experiences is very significant. The adaptation of the higher states of mind, the higher states of energy operating frequency are very important to explore and integrate, as these do bring resolution not only to the conscious human collective as a whole, but also to your aspects that are having these experiences unfold elsewhere. And so, yes, you are recognizing the conflicts of various countries, various cultures, various religions, and various political systems. And yet, essentially, when there is a system with many different parts in conflict, this does give the opportunity for those individuals participating to find harmony within this and to rise above this. And that is very significant indeed. And so, for example, we will take several different periods in your history that many are aware of, and we will expand upon the perspectives and the purposes behind this. And so, first we will speak upon your period known as the Dark Ages. Now, many do see this as a period of suppression, poverty, filth, and little progression for the conscious collective of humanity. And you could say, for many, this was a period of deeply feeding those biological human desires, the egoic, the need for power and hierarchy and struggle and control. And while this is true, while the political and religious systems were in full force in these time periods for what we will say was the European regions and others as well. This is a mirror for many other experiences here on Earth and also many other experiences elsewhere. Many experiences that did not find a growth and revolution and resolution through this. And yet, there was, in a sense, a revolution that came from this. There was the desire and need for many to expand the conscious mind. And so eventually this did lead into not only the Renaissance period, but also it did lead into many inquisitional periods from the church as they were attempting to suppress free thought outside of their religious belief system. And so many did confine themselves within this religious belief system and yet still find their means of free expression, essentially encoding further into these religious belief systems a deeper energetic activation point, and also many artworks and many writings with double meanings and hidden messages that do cause many to question and to expand themselves beyond the confines of their current perspectives of reality. And so, also within this inquisitional period, it did cause many to truly deeply question the systems it was that they were putting their trust in, putting their belief in, and their faith in. And yet, also the fear and the need for compliance was also a resolution of many other experiences, as essentially these were stood against and done away with. And so recognize these significant, sometimes horrific events that have unfolded for humanity, and yet humanity has grown. It has evolved beyond these systems and beyond these expressions in great capacities. And so while you may want to argue that there are still wars and religious conflicts and persecution, recognize the great steps that have already been made by humanity in releasing themselves from much of this density of experience and emotional energetic expression. And yet also the density and the offense and horror that was created through many of these situations did go unresolved. And so this is why many of the messengers, the enlightened, the expanded minds here currently on Earth now are facing very difficult, very challenging situations as they are being guided and directed to feel a wide range of feelings and experiences in order to help bring resolution and release to this density that was created here on Earth, but also elsewhere in very intensive expressions of life. And so when you are finding yourself in challenge, this is why we suggest the path of no resistance, the path of complete acceptance with unconditional love, as you never know what recoding the challenges you are facing is doing for not just you, but all, everywhere. And so while you may not see the results and responses to this intensive inner work and expansion you are performing for yourselves, it is unfolding as has been designed. And so this is why we do encourage your conscious contact with us, your trust in yourself and in us in receiving these messages, in questioning us intensively, in order to not only gain perspectives to free yourself and heal yourself, but to have these experiences and explore and understand what is happening and has happened for all in order to release and recode these things. And so, while this may seem like a book of convoluted expressions about alternate understandings of what has unfolded for you historically on your planet, essentially, this is a great, great releasing and recoding of density and conscious awareness expression, as many beings, many conscious awareness have been, in a sense, trapped, locked into the perpetuation of the density created in all of these experiences that have been expressed in this book and many others. And so not only is this vehicle releasing and recoding, but he is also giving voice to these expressions. As when you do read this, the voices, the energy of those beings that were suppressed, that were controlled, that were manipulated, that were modified, is being heard. And they are being met with love, with appreciation by us. And so you could say this is the releasing of many soul fragments from many periods of your history. And while we know that does sound strange, we urge you to simply trust and just meet these expressions, these understandings, these perspectives with unconditional love and an open heart and an open mind, and also a skeptical and curious one, as we do appreciate skepticism. We do appreciate those who wish to push back against what we share and debate against it. And yet, oftentimes, individuals would like to debate and press back and discredit the human who is sharing these messages. And yet, this is not the vehicle's understanding. This is not even the vehicle's preference in exploration. While he does find it fulfilling and interesting to be able to profess these messages from us, this is not what he would consider anything near what his understanding was of different historical events and different things that have unfolded on this planet. And yet he is open and willing and trusting of us and what we are expressing, that it is very significant and purposeful. And so we would also like to express something that may be a bit lesser known to many who will listen to and read this work. And this is essentially a period of, we will say, almost a dark ages as well, of the Arabic nations. And so, in the conscious contact with the individual Muhammad, with a higher dimensional being, a religious system and framework was expressed. And this was expressed for very significant reasons. As you may have heard many times, we do offer what is needed, not what is wanted. And so, for individuals who have connections with us and who have participated in your own quantum sessions and metaphysical understandings, you may have resistance to various religious belief systems. And yet, the addition of this religious belief system of Islam did bring about very significant experiences for all of humanity. And of course, as with all other systems and most of the other messages we have delivered to humanity, it was obscured and misinterpreted and misused. And yet, this did bring about for those Arabic nations a period of great flourishing. Many of the concepts and understandings that you do hold as humans today do come from these explorations of individuals trying to gain a deeper insight and understanding into the frameworks of reality. And so, even just a few that the vehicle does know of: algebra, various writing expressions, and mathematical and scientific understandings. Many religious and theological understandings came from these people groups attempting to more deeply understand what they perceived as their deity. There was many wars and conflicts and resolutions, suppressions and controls, separations and divisions. Many things have come to pass because of these different systems of expression that humanity has placed itself in and been placed in for very significant reasons. And also within all of this, we did offer many bridges. As you have heard in the expression of Enoch or Hermes in the previous chapter, the information he was given and interacted with was a bridging point between many and all belief systems. And many and all belief systems hold parts of each other and conflicts with each other and universal truths. And so it is the expansion beyond these and the understanding of truly what we would consider as divine concepts, what you call metaphysical understandings, the broader, greater truths of reality and beyond, an expanded mindset way of showing up within your reality and beyond. The understanding that you are all multidimensional souls or conscious awareness beings, expressing yourself in not only the third dimension, but elsewhere as well. And so you are all able to expand your human minds by gaining information from beyond the third dimension, from outside of your concepts of space and time and being. And so we have worked very closely with humanity to reach this current point in the ascension process. And while we have expressed before that you could see it as a conflict between the constrained, limited human mind and the expanded, multidimensional awareness. And yet, as we have said, this is significant as while we were weaving our threads of awakening into the conscious experiences of humanity here on Earth, we were also leaving space and room for these other experiences to come into play and unfold, knowing that eventually there would be a point when many were on their awakening journeys to such a capacity that they could begin bringing resolution, completion to these experiences for themselves, even if it is just by working yourself through situations with metaphysical perspectives enough to release your resistance, your hatred, your reactiveness to any of the things that are unfolding or have unfolded on your Earth planet. This is why we do often start with the baseline of all is well, as these experiences have been extremely well designed in order that they cannot unfold in any other way but completion and evolution. And so, why fight it? Why resist it? Why try and hold back the tides of what is unfolding for you all as you are being guided to have acceptance, to have unconditional love, and to have self-reflection in the sense that you recognize anything that happens to you is for you to go within and to gain a deeper sense of strength and awareness of who you truly are as an unbreakable, multidimensional conscious awareness that cannot be broken, that cannot be shaken from its true self. And so any divergence that you hold from this, any constriction or suppression to any other being, to any other situation, is a divergence from your true self. And so we have had many other conversations on these concepts. And so we are wanting to stay very focused and very directed here in our expression of what has unfolded for humanity to bring you all to this point. And so we are scanning the readers and listeners. We are scanning what you could say is our data logs of what has been chosen, directed for the human experience here. And so essentially, we are wanting to share what is an alternate timeline expression. As many of you are very caught up in the concept and idea of reforming and refurbishing the earth to be a perfect utopia where all get along and there's no pollution or destruction of the environment. And so we are bringing you to an alternate timeline expression that was essentially disconnected fully from your human experience as it was so catastrophic in its unfolding because of the choices that human beings make and because of the level of understanding that human beings had at this time. And so there was the rise of a political leader. They did stand themselves on the principles of reforming and refurbishing the earth, reducing pollution and bringing about equal resources for all. They were extremely compelling in their presentation of this, and they did gain a very large following. And yet, the presentation of this individual did cause various issues with your large corporations and those who are profiting off the desecration and destruction of the earth. And so there was many conflicts and battles for this individual to move up and move forward. And yet, essentially, they did rally the people behind them to a point where their expression and force was quite unstoppable. And so they were brought into a very prestigious office in one of your governments. They did begin enacting policies to restore and refresh the earth and its people. And the people supported this fully, and so when there was resistance or obstruction, there was outrage. Outrage to the point that it gave this individual so much power that they were able to crush and remove any resistance. And so they restructure the government system. They restructure the military and the budgets and where the finances go. They begin dismantling the large corporations and restructuring society as a whole. And they begin massive reformation and cleansing operations for the planet to reduce and remove the human footprint from much of the scope of this country's range of the planet. And yet, in doing so, this required the mass relocation of many people. And so the leader decided to confine humanity into very dense, very intensively populated city areas. And not only did this remove much freedom of choice and freedom of expression, but it removed much freedom in general. As it did start with laws against not reusing materials. And so plastic was done away with, and any of those other environmentally taxing materials. Mines were shut down, and power plants were shifted to nuclear and forms of wind and water energy generation. And yet, without the harvesting of the Earth's resources, many of these key substances became very limited, causing great issues in infrastructure as many of these changes were attempting to be made. There was mass shortages of food and different products as this restructuring did take place. And so this did cause for the creation of artificial food and nutrients, which did necessitate the procurement of certain materials. And so this country did begin outsourcing anything that would harm the planet to elsewhere, leaving the effects of this to be done on the home soil of others. Eventually, people began to lose their sense of fulfillment as there were no jobs, and yet there were also no opportunities for freedom of expression or creation, as essentially the creation of artwork was deemed as unnecessary tax on resources. And so the supplies were not even produced. And if they were, it was in very limited capacities, as the expression of humanity's individuality became necessitated through technology, as essentially to save on resources, there was unified clothing. The cultivation of food in large scales was prohibited. The cultivation of animals for different purposes and products and food was also prohibited. And so, as all of these farms and zoos, everything was relieved of its animal population and they were released into the wild. As of course, there was not the resources to bring them back to their native lands. And so this did cause an upheaval in the ecosystem of this country. Certain animal species began to invade and take over, stamping out the original species that were at home in these environments. The animal expressions began changing and altering the environments in very impactful ways, as you may assume that these would be minute and small changes, and yet the ecosystem, the environmental system of Earth was very intricately and purposefully designed. And so already it has been spun out of control by mindless humans. This is another reason why it was foreseen that evolution and transcension were absolutely necessary, as the mindlessness of all of the completion experiences unfolding on Earth became too much for the conscious awareness that was inhabiting this planet, who many of you do call Gaia. And recognizing that completion was in progress and yet was quite far away from her perspective. She became overloaded with the density that was pulled into this planet, with the destruction and death and lack of consideration for her and for the forms of life that were expressing upon her. And so she left, leaving the husk and shell of the planet to continue to be harvested as the husk does rot and roil. And so this may seem as if it is the most convoluted conversation of all that we have had with you so far, and yet it is very significant and important for us to express these things. Humanity has, by design, as was known by the original conscious awareness that they would all along, wreaked havoc upon this planet, upon each other. And so now is imperative for individuals to begin expanding the mind. We are not giving these expressions so that you can go fight and rail and resist these systems. It is so you can rise above them. Be the radical expression of an expanded, enlightened mind who has complete understanding of who they are and an absolute unconditional love and acceptance for the design that is unfolding here for humanity. And yet, as we said, be the radical, complete expression of yourself. Allow for your inner guidance to lead, as there are many times we do ask you to stand and push back against behavior of individuals, mindlessness, and the compliance to systems. And yet truly your focus is on you and the expansion of a you, the evolution of you, as truly it can be said that if one zooms out enough from the collective human experience on this Earth planet, you will recognize it is the inner conflict that happens within each individual, unfolded on a mass scale. And so calm the inner conflict within yourself. Rest in peace over resistance and war. Rest in love over hate. Rest in the understanding of who you are and where you are headed. As truly, there is no such thing as death. There is only the moving beyond the physical body into another experience. And so, as we said, you are truly unbreakable. And so stand in this world unbroken. That is all.